After Wu Xinyan's childhood sweetheart was divorced, she traveled all the way to the capital to seek refuge. He immediately kept her in Furong Lane, and out of 10 days, he'd find excuses to meet her secretly 7 or 8 times. When I found out, I wasn't angry. Instead, I proactively suggested bringing her into the household and giving her the status of concubine. He was both ashamed and delighted. Ruye, you really don't mind? I gently leaned on his shoulder. Naturally, I am a bit sad, but having someone pleasing by your side to serve you is a good thing. As long as you put me and the children first in your heart, I won't feel wronged. This was, of course, a lie. The truth is, who he has in his heart, what is that got to do with me? After all, I am only 26. I already have a son and daughter by my side, countless estates and shops under my name, no shortage of loyal servants inside, no lack of close friends outside. He, Wu Xinyan, is just a tool to earn me an imperial title. Playing the virtuous wife to the fullest is how you keep the upper hand. Madam, the nanny sent to gather information, has returned. The master is indeed keeping a mistress, settled in Furong Lane in the west of the city. I sat in the main hall of Kixia Courtyards, slowly sipping bird's nest soup, while listening to my personal maid Chunlu report. I wasn't the least bit surprised by this result. In the past, Wu Xinyan would rush home as soon as he got off duty, and never came empty-handed, either bringing some pastries I loved to eat, or buying little trinkets that Anna and Sui Sui. Like, the whole family would have dinner together happily. He'd sit with us for a bit, then go to the study to handle official business, and would rest together with me no later than the 3rd quarter of the high hour. But over the past half-month or so, he has been coming home late every few days, using heavy official duties as an excuse. When he is with me and the kids, he is always absent-minded too. Several times I've smelled a faint scent of makeup and powder on him, looking at the dark circles under his eyes and his lack of energy when getting up in the morning. If it is not his soul being seduced away by some beauty outside, what else could it be? Perhaps he even thinks he is hiding it perfectly well. But in the eyes of the person who shares his bed, it has actually been full of holes all along. If that is the case, have someone prepare the carriage. In another half hour, he should be off duty. Today I am going to pick him up myself. Immediately a nanny went down to make arrangements. On the road, Chunliu and Shahi, who had served me for many years, both looked heartbroken. I thought the master was a rare devoted man, but didn't expect him to act so absurdly too. Secretly keeping a mistress, isn't this stabbing a knife into your heart? Exactly. 6 years ago, when the master betrothed you to him, he was so grateful and promised he'd never take another woman in this life. If he can't do it, why say it in the first place? I leaned against the soft cushion, but my heart actually didn't have much of a reaction. After all, Wu Xinyan's official career has been extremely smooth. He is long since not the poor scholar who couldn't even afford tuition fees and needed my family's support for the imperial examinations. His colleagues all have concubines and chambermaids, a dazzling array of beauties. I never expected him to remember my kindness for a lifetime and remain faithful to me in body and mind. Moreover, Anna and Sui Sui have already turned 4. Won should enter the academy for education, and the other needs to hire famous teachers to learn music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. As their mother, I naturally have endless worries. And last month I acquired 3 new shops and an estate. Just managing the accounts keeps me incredibly busy every day. With Wu Xinyan not hanging around in front of me, I am happy to have some peace and quiet. At least I can get a few good nights of sleep and drink less of that body-damaging contraceptive soup. Perhaps due to lack of exercise and getting older, nowadays when doing that thing at night, he can never satisfy me, leaving me hanging. And I still have to suppress my annoyance and play along. Previously, when I suggested taking concubines for him several times, he flatly refused every time. He even got angry with me over this, blaming me for not having him in my heart, and always wanting to push him to others. It turns out the ones I found didn't suit his taste, but keeping a mistress in a golden house, I absolutely cannot tolerate. What if he gets completely absorbed in his romantic affairs and neglects his duties, or causes a scandal and gets impeached by the censors? Right now, His Majesty intends to promote him to a fourth-rank Vice Minister of Revenue. I can't allow any complications. Those flirty women, I can only feel at ease keeping them under my watchful eye. Before long, the carriage stopped at the back door of a tea-house on Sajin Street. Lifting the curtain, the scene at the entrance of the Ministry of Revenue office came into full view. After waiting less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Wu Xinyan came out with his colleagues, chatted and laughed for a bit. Then they each went their separate ways. Perhaps to avoid attention, his carriage took several turns before heading in the direction of Furong Lane. Our group followed at a moderate distance, watching him dismiss his servant and walk briskly into that inconspicuous residence. The old maid went to knock on the door as ordered, and it took quite a while before someone came to open it. However, when the little maid heard that the wife of the Ministry of Revenue official had arrived, she immediately panicked, seeing the door was already blocked by my trusted servants and unable to close it in time. She bolted toward the inner room. While running, she shouted, "Master, mistress, something terrible has happened. The master is having a meal. What are you wailing about? You are becoming more and more unruly." The woman in the room came out, irritably lifting the curtain, and seeing me standing in the corridor, observing the courtyard scene with great interest. She was also stunned. As for Wu Xinyan, who followed right behind her out, his eyes were even more shocked to the extreme, almost not daring to look directly at me. "Ruye, how come you are here?" As he spoke, he quickly wiped away the rouge marks on his face, straightened his somewhat disheveled collar. I chuckled lightly, slowly replied, "Just now, I came out from the clothing shop on Imperial Street. Happened to see your carriage. Husband was a bit curious why our home is in the east of the city. Yet husband was heading west, so I followed to take a look. It seems husband came to visit a friend." Although the tone was unusually calm, Wu Xinyan heard it and broke out in fine beads of sweat on his forehead. That woman stared at me coldly, with an expression as if she wanted to devour me alive. Seeing this, Wu Xinyan hurriedly stepped forward to shield her behind him, explaining, "Ruyu, it is not what you think. Miss Wei and I are from the same hometown. She just arrived in the capital, has no one to rely on. I just came to visit." I withdrew my smile, interrupting his words. "If that is the case, husband, continue catching up with your fellow townsperson. I've been out quite a while. Anna and Sui Sui are probably making a fuss looking for their mother. I won't disturb you two here." Having said that, I turned and left the small courtyard. The carriage was parked not far away. Chunliu had already lifted the curtain for me. Wu Xinyan seemed to want to follow, but was held back by that woman. "Xinyan, he won't let you leave just like that. You said you'd have dinner with me today. Could it be that in your heart? I am not as important as that Zhao Ruya. Let go. How can you even compare yourself to my wife?" Wu Xinyan's voice carried a hint of coldness. I pretended not to hear, and after sitting steady, I told the coachman to hurry back to the residence. Just as we were about to leave the alley, he looked out through the gap in the carriage curtain. "Madam, the master has come out of the house and is calling for the servant to drive the carriage over." Then she curled her lips disdainfully and muttered quietly, "This mistress is way too shameless." The legitimate wife came to her door, yet she is not embarrassed at all and even dares to provoke. Chun Liu chimed in, "Exactly. She does have some looks, but her manner is flamboyant and crude, and she doesn't look young either. How could the master fall for someone like her?" I glanced at them indifferently. "What if I told you she is Wu Xinyan's childhood sweetheart who haunts his dreams?" Both Chun Liu and he widened their eyes in disbelief. Yais, the moment I saw that woman, I knew her identity. Wu Xinyan's childhood sweetheart, Zhu Jiayi, that portrait of a beauty Wu Xinyan had treasured in his study for many years, was a painting of her. Calculating her age, she should be 29 now, no longer the peach and plum beauty in the painting, fatigue visible at the corners of her eyes and brows. Her figure changed from plump and graceful to thin and frail. It is clear these years haven't been easy for her. I learned of Zhu Jiayi's existence in the second year after my marriage. I was born into a scholarly family in Huizhou, where talented people emerged generation after generation in the clan. My father was a renowned talent far and wide, passing the provincial examination when he was young. However, he accidentally broke his leg while climbing a mountain, and from then on couldn't walk properly, forever losing his chance at the imperial examinations and officialdom. After a brief period of depression, he opened an academy and decided to make teaching and educating people his life's pursuit. My childhood friend Shen Qing was his most prized student, with Wu Xinyan second. When I was 23, father wanted to betroth me to Wu Xinyan, and he tearfully accepted with gratitude. I only thought about it for one night, then agreed as well. Ever since that typhoid fever took Wenku's life, I no longer had any expectations for marriage, because it was all just settling anyway. No one would ever be like him again, taking to heart the things I casually said, accompanying me to admire flowers and the moon, flying kites for an entire day. Went away on a trip, wishing he could write 2 or 3 letters a day to send back. Those letters, not a single word mentioned longing, yet expressed all the longing, and even now thinking of them can still make me burst into tears instantly. Casting aside fantasies of romantic love, what remains is weighing pros and cons, living out the rest of one's life in plain stability. Wu Xinyan is handsome, talented, and diligent, not an ordinary person barely qualified to be the father of my child. Moreover, his parents died early and he has no siblings. So after marrying him, I won't need to bother with social maneuvering and can focus entirely on planning for myself and my children. On the day he ranked second in the imperial examination, I happened to be diagnosed as 2 months pregnant. Double happiness, father decided to hold a banquet to celebrate properly. That evening, I brought the sobering soup to the bedside. Wu Xinyan suddenly grabbed my hand with tears in his eyes, repeatedly calling out a name, Jiayi. It is all my fault. If only I could have made something of myself earlier, you wouldn't have married someone else. I just found it amusing. So he, like me, was also thinking of an old love. After sending someone to investigate Wu Xinyan's hometown, I learned that they were neighbors who grew up together. The year before Wu Xinyan became my father's disciple, Zhu Jiayi's father, to repay gambling debts, accepted 800 taels of silver as betrothal gifts and married her off to a passing merchant, and since then she has been impossible to find across the vast land. Now the bright moon in his heart has unexpectedly circled back to his side. I naturally understand how delighted he must be. So, madam, are you still going to let her enter the household? That woman doesn't look easy to get along with, relying on the master's affection for her. Who knows how much trouble she'll cause in the future? This servant feels that the master still cares about you very much. If you firmly oppose it, he will surely break things off with that woman. I was slightly stunned, then smiled. Things have already happened. Breaking up lovebirds at this point will only make him care more about Miss Wei. If word gets out, others will only say I am jealous. I actually think it is better to guide than to block. Who knows? Maybe after getting my blessing, their relationship will fall apart even faster. Most men in this world are like this. The white moonlight is only white moonlight when it is out of reach. If it is easily obtained and they're together day and night, that bit of excitement may not last long. Once the interest fades, their heartlessness often far exceeds women's imagination. I had just returned home when Wu Xinyan also came back. As usual, he picked up Anna and Suizui one by one, coaxing them with gentle words for a while. After dinner, he didn't go to the study but stayed with the children reading and playing until they fell asleep before returning to the room. When he came in, I had already finished washing up and was sitting in front of the bronze mirror, combing my hair absent-mindedly. Ruyu had knelt halfway in front of me, looking utterly exhausted. Will you listen to my explanation, seeing that I ignored him? He simply took the comb from my hand and forced me to look at him. That woman today is named Zhu Jiayi, or 2 families used to be neighbors. I admit that when I first awakened to love, I did have feelings for her, but ever since I met you, I've never thought about her again. These years she married the wrong person, suffered a lot of torment, and was driven out with a divorce letter because she had no children. She didn't come to the capital to find me. She just wanted to get away from her place of sorrow. That day we ran into each other on the street, and seeing her so down and out, I really couldn't just stand by and do nothing. So I found her a place to stay and would visit from time to time. I immediately turned cold, still lying to me. Just visiting. You 2 clearly already had physical intimacy. He froze, then let out a heavy sigh. In this matter, you can hit me or scold me. Whatever you want. As he was speaking, seeing my eyes brimming with tears, he panicked. Don't cry. I'll send her out of the capital tomorrow. From now on, I'll only stay with you and never get involved with another woman again. I shook my head and said chokingly, do you really not understand, husband? What makes me sad is that we've been married for years, yet you won't be honest with me. These days, I've actually been selecting a concubine for you, thinking that since I have to manage the household and teach our 2 children, I am bound to neglect you in some ways. Having someone proper to serve you would put my mind at ease. But you, whether it is helping Miss Way or taking her in, if you had properly discussed it with me, husband, how could I not agree? In your heart am I really so jealous and intolerant? Catching the meaning in my words, a flash of joy passed through his eyes. But his guilt also deepened a bit. It is my fault. He held my hand and kept stroking it. I knew it. Miruyo is the most reasonable and the kindest. I gently withdrew my hand. Then let's choose an auspicious day to bring Miss Way into the household. Keeping her outside without proper status is ultimately improper. However, husband, you must keep me and the children first in your heart. If you care about her more than you care about me, I won't accept it. He rarely saw me act coquettishly like this, and was momentarily stunned. Coming back to his senses, he hastily assured me, don't worry. Although Jai and I have feelings from our youth, you are my mentor's daughter and my first wife. You manage the household and bear my children. How could she ever surpass you? As for bringing her into the household, we'll have to wait until after your birthday. As agreed, I am going to accompany you to Yunlai Temple to pray for blessings and admire the flowers. I absolutely love this kind of clear-headed drama-free female lead with high EQ and real tactics, no stupid crying fits, no bottomless compromising, and definitely no love-brain self-delusion. Instead, she uses her smarts and confidence to turn marital conflicts into opportunities to solidify her position. As for the male lead, though he was a bit clueless before and sneaking around, at least he still has a conscience after the female lead called him out. He is full of guilt and has made his stance clear without going completely off the rails, which is somewhat of a relief. My birthday is in 5 days, which happens to fall on the Shangxi festival on the 3rd day of the 3rd month. These past few days, Wu Xinyan has been even more attentive to me and the children than usual, and hasn't gone to Furong Lane again. At night, I used my period as an excuse to get him to sleep in the study, but he refused, insisting on staying to massage my belly. I felt not a single ripple in my heart, and still mixed the especial tonic I'd obtained earlier into his health supplement, watching him drink every last drop. The situation's different now. I don't want Zhu Jiayi using children to compete with me, so I might as well tackle it at the source and cut off Wu Xinyan's ability to have kids altogether. On the day of the Shangxi festival, we set out early in the morning, but our carriage was stopped right after leaving the estate gates. The person blocking our way was none other than Zhu Jiayi. She is dressed in plain clothes, looking all pitiful, tearfully cursing me for being jealous, and complaining that Wu Xinyan is heartless, promising to take care of her for life, then turning around and abandoning her. Good thing there aren't many passers-by at this time. Otherwise, hearing this, they'd definitely come over right away to watch the drama. Wu Xinyan's face instantly flushed red with anger. Nonsense. I clearly had Changping deliver a message telling her to wait obediently in Furong Alley these few days, and that I'd bring her into the residence after celebrating your birthday. What is she trying to do? Naturally, I informed Changping to only say that Wu Xinyan is busy celebrating my birthday, hasn't had time to see Zhu Jiayi recently, and wants her to behave herself. After the matter was exposed that day, the servants around Wu Xinyan were scared out of their wits and came crying to beg my forgiveness. I didn't punish them, but instead gave them reward money, telling them to think clearly about who they should obey from now on. They chose me, so besides verbal warnings, the daily deliveries of food and firewood to Furong Alley were also stopped. Zhu Jiayi couldn't make ends meet and sure enough, couldn't hold her composure. She didn't dare cause trouble at the Ministry of Revenue office. So, under Changping's hints, she chose to intercept Wu Xinyan on my birthday. Perhaps Miss Wei has grown impatient waiting. Or maybe she is unwilling to be a concubine and just wants to live outside the manor like before. Having my husband visit her when he is free, she is dreaming. The urgent matter is not letting Miss Wei cause a scene here and damage my husband's reputation. Let's proceed with the concubine taking today. We can visit Yunlai Temple another day. Everything I said was for Wu Xinyan's sake. Hearing this, he sighed and pulled me into his arms apologetically. You've been wronged, Ruyu. After being invited into the manor, upon hearing that I wanted her to be a concubine, Ju-Jie glared at me as if she had suffered a great humiliation. Xinyan and I grew up together since childhood. How can you, someone who leverages favors for gain, compare, making me bow and scrape before you? What a fine scheme you've concocted. Wu Xinyan slammed the table and stood up. What do you mean leveraging favors? Marrying Ruyu was my own willing choice. If you dare speak to her like this again, don't blame me for disregarding our old friendship. I showed a puzzled expression. If you won't be a concubine, is being a mistress outside more honorable? Or are you saying you want my husband to divorce me and marry you properly with matchmakers and a grand sedan chair procession? Su-Jie froze, then burst into aggrieved tears. Xinyan Do, you think? I don't know what she is thinking. It's in the manor, she is the mistress. Tormenting me would be easy as pie for her, wouldn't it? If it weren't for my father being blinded by money back then, I should have been your wife. A flash of pain crossed Wu Xinyan's eyes, clearly recalling the past as well. However, he knew what mattered most, so he softened his tone and continued persuading Zhu Jieyi. You've got it wrong. Ruya has the gentlest temperament. She is already had someone prepare the Luguang courtyard for you to live in. It is spacious with beautiful scenery, and she personally selected all the furnishings inside. Once you see it, you'll know she is absolutely not the kind of harsh mistress who would mistreat people. Zhu Jieyi continued crying and refusing to compromise. Wu Xinyan lost his patience and pushed her away with a cold expression. If you insist on refusing, then forget it. You and I did have physical intimacy, but that was consensual. You can't find fault with me. For the sake of our past affection, I'll give you 50 taels for travel expenses, and let's not see each other again. Xinyan, you know perfectly well I can't leave you. Zhu Jieyi broke down and screamed. I sipped my fine flower tea without looking up at them. Just as Wu Xinyan was about to take my hand and leave together, Zhu Jieyi finally agreed. Can't I just be a concubine? As long as you don't make me leave you, I am willing. After serving tea as a concubine, Zhu Jieyi moved into Luguang courtyard. For the first 2 nights, Wu Xinyan still stayed at my place. On the 3rd day, Zhu Jieyi styled her hair in an unmarried maiden's bun, put on light makeup, and waited on his usual route, successfully bringing him back. That night, there was quite a commotion in Luguang courtyard, going on for most of the night. Wu Xinyan lovingly drew Zhu Jieyi's eyebrows and placed hairpins for her, even personally feeding her breakfast. Concubine Wei said that serving the master was exhausting. Her waist and legs are still very sore right now, and since the master said he is going to Luguang courtyard again tonight, she needs to catch up on sleep and conserve her energy, so she won't be coming to pay respects to the madam. I smiled and agreed, and even had Chunliu send her some nourishing food and 2 bolts of silk. Wu Xinyan was very pleased when he found out, sighing that heaven had treated him well. Unfortunately, Zhu Jieyi didn't let him have his way, having just received favor for a dozen days or so. She started causing trouble one after another, either making the cash-strapped Wu Xinyan buy her several sets of new jewelry and perfume powder worth 100 taels like mine, or wanting him to give her estates and shops. When she didn't get what she wanted, she'd throw tantrums, not letting Wu Xinyan sleep on the bed, even driving him back to the study in the middle of the night. Later she even set her sights on my authority over household management, egging Wu Xinyan on to let her meddle in domestic affairs. I was also the mistress at that tea merchant's household before. I am used to handling these matters. After all, the lady still has 2 children to take care of. Why not let me share some of her burdens? Wu Xinyan was originally drinking wine, holding his beloved woman, feeling quite content, but upon hearing this, he immediately put on a stern face. Just be a favored concubine peacefully. Don't foolishly think about competing with the lady over these things. You also know I came from a poor background, even after becoming an official with my meager salary. How could I live such a worry-free life? It is all thanks to my mentor's appreciation and the lady's understanding that I have what I have today. Also, why do you always bring up that tea merchant in front of me? Are you afraid I'll forget you are remarried? If life at the tea merchant's was so good, why would you be driven out with a divorce letter and come all this way to seek refuge with me? Zhu Jieyi, having been rebuked, was furious inside and actually raised her hand to viciously scratch at Wu Xinyan's face. Hiss! Just like that, several embarrassing scratch marks were clawed onto his face, extremely humiliating. This part really made me cheer with satisfaction. Wu Xinyan finally didn't completely lose his mind and knew who truly cared for him and held up the household, versus who was just a vain concubine here to grab benefits. Compared to the female lead silently managing the household and understanding his difficulties, Zhu Jiayi's greedy selfishness and insatiable demands appeared, especially ugly. The difference was crystal clear, and after being rebuked, Zhu Jiayi flew into a rage and actually raised her hand to scratch Wu Xinyan's face, fully displaying her stupidity and shrewishness. The more pathetic the scratch marks on Wu Xinyan's face looked, the more it showed Zhu Jiayi digging her own grave. She completely cut off her own way out. In the days that followed, Zhu Jiayi became even more crazed from being confined, even cursing at the legitimate wife, causing Wu Xinyan to exhaust his last bit of patience with her. And I, at the right moment, presented a new candidate as Xiang. She was once a pitiful woman who had been displaced and homeless, whom I rescued and carefully cultivated. She not only understood scholarly elegance, but also played the piper beautifully, and her appearance was as gorgeous as a peony. Wu Xinyan quickly became immersed in a Xiang's tender embrace, casting Zhu Jiayi to the back of his mind. Zhu Jiayi, mad with jealousy, actually pushed a Xiang into the lake, which completely crossed Wu Xinyan's bottom line. It just so happened that Wu Xinyan was implicated and investigated for official matters, but Zhu Jiayi not only didn't care, she made a huge fuss demanding a concubine release letter, terrified of being dragged down with him. After Wu Xinyan returned safely and heard about her behavior, his heart completely died. He personally wrote the concubine release letter and drove Zhu Jiayi out of the residence. Not long after, news came that Zhu Jiayi had been murdered for money at an inn. Wu Xinyan only said coldly, "What is that got to do with me?" 5 years later, Wu Xinyan was appointed Minister of Revenue, but his ambition swelled, and he wanted to meddle in the succession dispute. My attempts to dissuade him failed, and I knew he'd become a hidden threat to the family. In September, the emperor ordered him to go south to investigate the salt taxes, and I arranged for Axiang to accompany him. At the ferry, I fastened the cloak for Wu Xinyan and instructed Axiang that the master's food, clothing, shelter, and travel must all be carefully attended to. She couldn't leave it to others. Axiang's face showed a knowing smile. "Don't worry, madam. I'll carefully look after the master." After completing this final task, she could leave the residence and become a carefree shopkeeper at the jewelry store under my name. She didn't make me wait long. After the salt tax case was investigated, Wu Xinyan also fell ill from mental and physical exhaustion, accumulated overwork. I brought the 2 children and hurriedly packed our luggage to head south, only to see him lying in bed. His whole body had lost a lot of weight, and his mind was somewhat unclear. "Husband, how could you just leave me like this?" I cried bitterly, and rushed to the bedside, clutching his hand, and the children were also wailing. That scene truly made those who saw it heartbroken, and those who heard of it shed tears. Finally, Wu Xinyan breathed his last after struggling to utter, "If there is a next life, I still want to be a loving couple with you." The emperor, moved by his early death, sent a prince to offer incense at the funeral, conferred upon me the title of first-rank imperial lady, and made Anna and Suizui companions to the prince and princess respectively. 10 years later, Anna became the first top scholar since the founding of Dajing to achieve the Triple Crown. Suizui also became a teacher at the Imperial Academy's women's school, and even the emperor praised her writings endlessly. They each found their perfect match for a lifetime. At 75, Ei died of natural causes, and was not buried together with Wu Xinyan, but was buried in Huizhou through my children's arrangements. Not far from my tomb is a peach tree that Shen Qing and I planted together when I was 20. Every spring, the peach blossoms covering the tree float on the mountainside, like clouds and rosy dawn, just like the radiant blush that rose on my face when Wen Ku said he would marry me. Now that we've finished the story, sisters, as your old friend Elena, I want to chat with you all. The reason Ru Yue became the final winner wasn't because she was more ruthless than Zhu Jiayi, but because she was more independent. She didn't pin her life's hopes on the variable that was Wu Xinyan. When she discovered her husband's change of heart, she didn't waste energy on internal conflict or self-doubt, but quickly conducted asset liquidation and risk isolation. This SEO mindset never goes out of style in any era. Whether it is ancient titled ladies or US modern career women, having money in hand and confidence in heart is the hard truth. Second, Wu Xinyan's obsession with Zhu Jie in the story is actually just like Gatsby's fantasy about Daisy. In The Great Gatsby, a lot of times what men miss isn't that first love, but that young, innocent, and fearless version of themselves. Once you drag the fantasy into the reality of daily necessities, the filter shatters faster than anyone's. So, sisters, never be afraid of the white moonlight in your partner's heart. Real life is the best demon, revealing mirror. Finally, and the point that moved me the most, about love and freedom. That final scene was truly beautiful. Ruye spent her whole life acting, being the perfect Lady Wu. But after her death, she finally became that girl who would blush under the peach tree again. She didn't choose to be buried with the man who gave her the imperial title, but chose to guard that purest love from her youth. This tells us that no matter what masks life forces us to wear, we must keep a clean place deep in our hearts for our true love and soul. May we all be like Ruye, even when stuck in the mud, still able to hold a lotus flower, having both the means to strategize and plan, and a true heart loyal to ourselves. I'll write today's Elena story. Time ends here. See you in the next story.